In this video, we're going to go over the process in which we will create our pre-production for our fantasy level. Now, this is a project that will start in this class and will continue into level design 1. So we're going to create our world in the last part of this class, and then we'll program the mechanics in level design 1 whenever you take that. So I just wanted to start this out by reading the specifications of the game that we're going to create, and this will kind of instruct you on how you need to design this level, because we will have some basic mechanics in the game. So let's just go through, and everything in bold is a mechanic you need to account for in the design of your level. So this game will consist of 2 scenes. We're going to have an outdoor fantasy village scene. I have a bunch of assets where you can create like a kingdom or a keep. And then an indoor fantasy building. We're going to create one scene that has let me write this in. One scene that's just like an inside interior. This way you could get experience in crafting an outdoor environment and an indoor one. So each scene must facilitate the following mechanics here. 2 entrances and exits. So these will be doors or hatches or hidden pathways or whatever, however you decide to design it. And however you can think of the way to use our assets that we're going to download and import into Unity, whatever kind of art you can think of for these exits or entrances. So these will be important because they will basically load the scenes between outdoor and indoor. They're always going to be unlocked. We will have locked doorways, but these will always be unlocked. And an example I'm talking about here would be if you had a big cathedral, then you would have an entrance and exit, or like an entrance to the inside on the outside scene. And then when you load into the inside scene, that same door is kind of behind you. If you turned around, you would see the exit back out to where you just came in. And then do something similar with like a hidden trap door from the cathedral that like lets you out in like a hidden back grotto or something. And then you're going to want to have 2 locked doorways in each scene. So gates or, tower doors that let you get through in the outside scene. And then 2 locked doorways on the inside scene. And these will bar progress through the stage. And you'll need to collect certain collectibles that will unlock them. And we will have collectible items in the stage. There will be 4 total, 2 for the outside locked doors and 2 for the inside locked doors. And you can place these anywhere in the level that you want. You can put, 3 in one scene, or maybe 4. I might try not to put all 4 collectibles in the outside or inside scene alone. That kind of be pretty boring. But you might be able a way to design something fun around that. And these will be like little floating gamified objects that fit the lore of what you're trying to create here. There's lots of prefabs in your assets you'll download. And there will be a UI message that will pop up for the player where you can design like a story beat so the player can kind of learn more about what's going on, or if it's like a clue, or if it's like a page from a diary or something like that. And these collectibles will unlock corresponding doors in the game. So there'll be 4 collectibles, 1 for each door. And, there might be you might need just a door that's unlocked, but it still opens. So, you go into a place and the door's closed, but, you just have to interact and it'll open without a collectible. And then the way the game is going to be won is the player will unlock all the doors, collect all the items, and make it to the win state room or area. It's just an area. As soon as the player collides with this area or zone in the game, a win message will appear, and basically you won. And it can be in whatever scene you want it to be in, your design decision, the indoor or outdoor scene. So here's a total tally of kind of things to include in the game. We're going to have 2 scenes, an outdoor scene, an indoor scene, entrance exits between both, 2 different ones. So that's 4 total. Locked doorways, 2 per scene. Collectible items, 4 total, and then some non-locking doors in a win area. All right. So why don't we see how we can get this going inside of Unity? I'm going to assume you already have Unity downloaded and installed the correct version that the SGD department is currently using. So make sure you check uh, inside the chapter for which version of Unity to download. And we're going to go ahead, and I have this Unity Hub icon right here. When you install, you'll want to run Unity by going to Unity Hub. All right. And there we go. It just popped up. So you can already see I have some game projects already here. If you're just running Unity for the first time, then you won't maybe see anything here. Uh, Anytime it asks you to update, just wait. We're going to try to only update software once per year or semester, depending on how it shakes out. The last thing you want to do is update your engine mid semester, mid project, and it bust up your project. You don't want to do that. So make sure you're using the correct version of Unity. You can check by this installs. And currently I'm using this one. This may change in the future. Just check with what your current class module demands. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on New. All right. And we're just going to make a 3D regular project. We're going to give this the name of, I get called my project the Secret Cathedral. I think that's how you spell that. And I'm going to set its location to just on the desktop for now. And it'll create its own folder called Secret Cathedral on the desktop. So I'm going to create. Unity will pop up, do its thing. And I'm going to pause the video. Well, looks like Unity is working a little bit faster. But I'm going to pause the video until this project is created. And after just a couple of minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, Unity has created this new project for me. So let's go to my desktop and see exactly what was made. So we have this new folder. You can see it's got the name of the project I gave it. And if we click on it, we get all these files. I'm just going to tell you right now, don't mess with anything here. The only way you should edit these files in your Unity project folder is through the Unity game engine platform itself. Don't go in and start moving things around, renaming things. Just leave it alone. But this whole project folder right here is your entire game right now. So this is what we're going to be zipping up. This is what you're going to keep track of. This is your game. So when I open up Unity back, uh, why don't we just kind of go through some of the windows we see here. Your hierarchy is an outliner for everything in your scene. Um, if you want to see what is in your scene, just click on our scene tab right here. It's got very similar controls to Maya. Use the Alt button, hold that down with your left thumb, and then use your left, middle mouse, and right mouse button to move the camera. So get used to doing that. You're going to be using that a lot. So your mouse will control your rotate, zoom, and pan. And your left thumb should always kind of be hovering over your Alt key, almost like if you were playing a first-person shooter, playing some old school Counter-Strike or something. All right. So just get used to moving your camera around and zooming around. And in my hierarchy, I can select the main camera for my game and the directional light. These are 2 default components or objects that Unity puts into your game scenes. These tabs up here show a few different interesting windows. The asset store, you can download things. We're not going to need that. We're not going to animate something. The game tab shows what the player will see. Right now they see nothing. There's really nothing going on in our game. And our scene view is where we work as developers. All right, perfect. So the next thing we're going to do is import all of our packages, Unity packages, or the chapter assets we downloaded. You can see that we have three. We have a simple FPS controller, a fantasy environment exterior, and a fantasy environment interior. These are very big files, as you saw when you downloaded them. So our project is about to get very big, but you're going to have tons of art assets to use to build your level. All right. So what we're going to do is to import a package. There's a few ways we can do it. You can go down to assets down here in the bottom left and import new asset. Let's navigate to the desktop where I have them. Looks like Unity's not recognizing that for some reason. Well, this is the way I prefer to do it anyway. I'll just like minimize my Unity and I'll just drag and drop assets onto the assets word. And it'll bring up this import window, and always just include all and do an import. You'll see that Unity is doing its thing and thinking. And now I have a new folder called FPS Controller. And some people may like this thumbnail folder version of this asset window right here. By the way, this is our project window. It's where we keep track of every object and asset and script that we have in our game. It's kind of like our toy box. It's where we can pull things out, put them in our scene, and get things working. All right. So if you want to see the full names of these folders, there's a little scroll bar down here. I like to go all the way to the left, and then I can actually read all of these folders. So that's basically how we import assets. I'm going to go ahead and start the importation of the art assets. So I'm going to drag and drop and hover right over assets. Now this might take a while since it's a file that's about a gig large. So I'm probably going to pause the video and wait for it to do its thing. And when the next prompt comes up, I'll resume. After about 30 seconds, we see this import package screen, and you can see that there's just a ton of stuff. All right, so we're just going to click all. It's going to contain all the textures and prefabs and meshes, and we'll hit the import button. And this process may take a little bit too, so I'm going to go ahead and pause. After a few windows come through, you can now see the actual importation of all the PNGs and FBXs for the meshes and models, and whatever other kind of metadata that Unity has when it imports a package. So basically all you're doing is importing a package into your current project, and they're super simple to create and use to your own benefit. Basically, you could just select the FPS controller folder right here, right click on it, and export that as a package. And it's kind of like a little nugget that you can take in and out of games. So you could take out that FPS controller, create a new package for it, and then import that package into a future project if you wish. So that's the deal with packages and what we're doing right now. So I basically went in and curated a bunch of downloaded assets that I attained, and made my own package for it and exported it out of my project, and that's what you're importing right now. All right, my exterior prefabs and support files are now imported. I'm going to go ahead and grab my fantasy environment interior. We're going to go through the same process for them. It's not quite as large of a package as the exteriors, but it still will take some time. So I'm going to pause. Here we have the usual import window. I'm going to make sure all is selected and just press import. And we'll actually import all these items now. Be right back. So I have my interior imported now. I think I'm going to go ahead and environment and indoor fantasy assets. that'll be fine for right now. So next, I want to go over some of the stipulations or specifications, parameters in the assignment. So that's going to be a 1510. I'll create that hyperlink. Uh, One of the parts of your assignment will be to create a lore write-up. Narrative design is one of the best ways to start giving your level an identity beyond just generic fantasy market town. So kind of create a backstory for your level. Explore the art assets included in Unity for ideas. So to do that, you're going to want to navigate to either your outdoor environments. So go to your exterior prefabs, and then you can see all these different folders we have. So we have like castles. So if you just keep clicking into stuff and you come to a prefab that looks like this, let me zoom in. So this is what we call a prefab. It's denoted by a blue square. It's basically kind of like a template of a bunch of different models put together. And we can see a little preview over here in our inspector, so you can increase the size of this you want, and click and drag all around. And you can see previews of everything that we have in the game. So all of these are prefabs in this folder. And remember, we got there by going to Fantasy Environments, Exterior Prefabs, and then every one of these guys should have prefabs that you can look at. So you can start getting an idea of what the package has to offer. I want to say that this support files right here are scripts, materials, and the actual meshes and textures that you won't need to use. Really, you're just going to want to use your prefabs. Anywhere where it says prefab, that's a piece ready to be used inside the game. All right. So let's go back. So you can explore the art for ideas of what you could create. And remember, the game will consist of finding collectibles and opening doors. And these collectibles will display some story beats. So you may have some dialogue or narrative exposition to write. Winds the player here, hunting down all these items to make it to the win area. And try to create an experience. We've been talking about what experiences are. You know, games are about giving the player an experience. And include the lore write-up on the paper map that we're going to go over right now. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this and that. And I want to click on my paper map that I created. And I'm going to kind of break down exactly what we're seeing here. So I have a quick little lore write-up right here. I went really basic with all this design, and I didn't want to steal anybody's thunder, so I just went with a secret cathedral that has like a little dungeon or torture chamber, and you got to make it out, and then when you get to the win area, you find the real truth behind everything. I haven't figured out what that is. It'll probably be something stupid like a pile of cheese. Anyway, so you can see that I have my lore written down. I have a legend that represent the different mechanics in our game. So the scene, entrance and exits, I have an A and B with different colors. This is kind of like a little legend I've created. I have all the collectibles and their corresponding doors by color. And then I have the win area with a big, denoted by a big yellow dot. And you can see that I have the indoor scene, which is the cathedral itself, kind of drawn out like a blueprint. And I have like just a crude scribble, something basic. It's going to change and be open to interpretation, but it gives me a basic layout of how I want my outdoor level to look. So my whole thing is this cathedral that's kind of on a Mediterranean looking cliffside, and it's well protected. So this side would be like the ocean, and this side would be the mountain that's going up. And they've carved out this little market city pilgrimage religious place. It kind of comes in. Here's like a reflection pool, and then it slowly winds upwards this mountain until you get to this grand plateau of the cathedral itself. So that's kind of my idea. And you can see that I have the collectibles all hidden around everywhere. And I even have this pink path drawn to kind of prove to myself that I can get to different places in my level. So why don't we just trace it? The player will start out by coming down this path. They'll find a clue hidden in some trees or vegetation that opens up the city gates. Um, They'll go and walk to the reflection pool. They'll see an item, hopefully along the way, that'll entice them to get there. And then they'll slowly make their way up. And it comes to find out the reflection pool item unlocks the garden gates, which lets you get straight to the cathedral. But you also notice this graveyard that's locked and you can't get to. The only thing you can do is go into the cathedral. So, boom, we have a little path of me walking into the cathedral. And then there's this little office building, and it has the graveyard key in it or something like that. And you come back out of the cathedral, so now you can access the graveyard, and you find that hidden in a grave or something that's maybe half exposed is another collectible item. And then you think, well, maybe this will open up something in the cathedral. So you walk back to the cathedral. It opens up my secret passageway that goes down, 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 and down some stairs into like a crazy cultish pilgrim sacrifice chamber. And then you witness the horror and you try to get out and you come behind this secret, dais or, little grotto area and you find a pile of cheese. And it's all for the cheese, baby. Just all the pilgrim's cheese collected to pay homage to the cheese god. Something dumb. I don't know. That's just where I'm going with right now. So you can see that my paper map really has my whole level kind of contained in it. The ideas that I have. It's best to kind of think about it now when you can just scribble something out in 10 minutes than to go and start building your level without a plan. Pre-production and paper maps are the name of the game. All right, I'm going to spend the rest of the video showing us how we will block out our level. As you can see, blocked out scenes in Unity. Let's see, what time does I start talking about? 2150. Uh, a blocked out scene inside of Unity will be the next parameter that I'm going to want to see for the turn in. You're going to recreate the paper map using primitive shapes like cubes, spheres, and planes to build out your map. You're going to bring in your FPS controller and test constantly as you block out the level. You're going to get attention to scale in this phase so you know how big things are going to be, how far away something is to walk to. That's a big thing. You don't want to have a part of the level that's, just walking. And then these scenes will actually turn into your levels. You'll replace the cubes and the spheres or whatever with vegetation and buildings. And this process is actually something that the industry does constantly. This is how level designers start figuring out their levels before the artists start making everything. This is called gray boxing. It's basically like a little prototype level design. So why don't we see how we can do that? So the first thing I'm going to do is create a plane for my most basic ground. So to do that, we're going to go up to Game Object, 3D Object, and we're going to create a plane. Now that's going to put a flat little square in the middle here. And before we do anything like move it or scale it or rotate it or anything like that, we're going to bring in my FPS controller that we have imported. So to do that, I'm going to just click on not the script. You can see the script here that gives it its logic, but rather the prefab. We're just going to drag and drop it into my hierarchy there. And then if we zoom in, we can see that we're hovering way in top in the air. So let me introduce the inspector a little bit more. So if you look on the right side of your default Unity screen right here, we have the inspector. And the transform window right here is going to be really helpful for you. Right here, we have position and the X, Y, and Z axes. Rotation and scale are also represented. So if we want to get this guy right in the center of the grid, we would have to zero everything out, and he'll be placed at the grid. Conversely, you can click on this little wheel right here and go to reset, and it'll zero out and put ones on the scale for your object. And then where am I in my scene? How did I zoom that in the first place? Well, if we select our FPS controller in our hierarchy and then hover our cursor over the scene and press F, we will focus directly to our first person controller. Pretty nice. I'm going to lift this up. The bottom of this little capsule wire is our foot, and I'm going to press play. And I'm just going to test out my first person controller to make sure it works. All right, great. Having our controller here to test is going to be one of the most important parts of this process. I'm going to select my plane now by clicking. And remember, our left thumb on Alt to move the camera, and then left click and Alt to rotate, right click to zoom, middle mouse click to pan. So I'm going to select my plane, and I'm going to reset it. And now I'm going to just scale it out really big. So it kind of looks like I'm in a desert right now. So not the best. I feel like it might be a little bright, so I'm going to select my directional light. And then if I zoom into my inspector, if I take the intensity and take it down to like 0.7, things won't be so bad. And for some reason, the default material here is just so white. We're going to create a new material that's gray. So all of our materials and meshes can actually be a gray box and not white box. So to do that, why don't we just create a new folder. We'll right click in our empty assets folder. We'll create a folder and we'll call this materials. Now there's a few other folders in here and all of our, interior and exterior stuff. We're not going to worry too much. We're going to just let that be organized like it is. We'll just create a, you know what? Why don't we create a folder called prototype? Perfect. And inside prototype, we're going to right click again and go to create. And we're going to create a new material, and we'll call this gray box underscore MAT for material. So we get this sphere looking thing, and this is how we can change the colors of objects inside of our game engine. So I'm going to select gray box. I'm going to zoom in, and our albedo is our color of our material. So I'm going to select that white right there, single click it. It's going to bring up a color wheel right here. And I'm going to set this material to gray. It'll be a little bit easier to see. And then to apply material, you just drag it into the scene and onto the material object that you want to make gray. So I'm just going to go ahead and start using these planes. Control D will duplicate. And you saw that I was just using the scale tool with the R key. E key will rotate, and W will move. Now I'm just going to create that opening walk that we had just by using a bunch of different planes and kind of suggesting, the shape of this walkway. And then I'm going to go to Game Object, Create 3D. We'll make a cube. And we're going to call this our gate. I'll reset it so it's leveled out. I'll press F to zoom in on whatever object I have selected. And I'll just keep dragging. And this will be our gate. You know what I actually need to do? I won't be able to get past this, so I actually need to make like a gate like this and a gate like that. And let's test what this looks like, because I really don't know what this scale looks like. So, pretty far walk, but this is going to be a bunch of trees and stuff, and it looks like that's short enough to get through. So, you know what? I think I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller. I'm going to select all of these by dragging a box. That's a little bit hard. So I'm going to click one, hold down the Shift key, and keep clicking my planes. And we're going to choose a center pivot up here so that we can scale them all together. I'm going to try to create a little bit smaller of a, I'm going to make the gate a little bit wider, a little bit taller. And our FPS controller, let's put it kind of back here, and let's see how long of a walk that is. So I'm holding down the shift key, I think, to run faster, spacebar to jump. You know what? I'll keep the walkway there, but I think I'll put the player closer to the gate. And I'm getting a little bit messy over here in my hierarchy now. See, every time I create a plane. So what we can do is we can create empty game objects, and we'll go over to our inspector and we'll reset them. And then I'm going to call this game object. I'm going to single click it and call this template group. I'm just going to move it right up there. And anytime I want to create like a containing folder in my game, I'll select template group, press Control D. It'll make a duplicate. And I can put all of my planes for my entryway here. We'll call this ground entry path. I'll duplicate this and call this entry gate. And I'll select my cubes with Control and just left click and drag and drop. You can see what this does now is it kind of gives us a little bit more organization in my hierarchy here. So these little arrows can drop down and in. Why don't we test this now by pressing play? All right. What we need are some trees now. So I'm going to go and let's see. Game object, create empty. Nope. Game object, create sphere. And that's a little sphere that I have. I'm going to turn this into a tree by maybe make it a little bit flatter. And that green wireframe is our collision box. And I'm going to create a new material, and we're going to make a green material. Green matte. I'll click the albedo. We'll go green. I'll drag onto my I'll drag it onto my object here, and I'll create one more material called brown. And we'll make like a brownish color. Single click things, wait a second, and then you can edit their name. Brown matte. And then I'm going to create a new game object cylinder. And we'll just create some basic lollipop trees, no big deal. And then what I can do is I can duplicate this template group. And then I can make sure that my template group is kind of at the base, this new template group. We're going to call this new template group tree template. Make sure that its arrows are at the very center right underneath my tree. And then we'll just parent the sphere and cylinder under this tree. And now I have a tree. And if you want to move it from its pivot point or its center point, you can click here. So now I can do trees. Let's see how big this tree is compared to my character. So this is more like a bush right now. So let's bring my first person controller closer to the center of the grid so I can test things a little bit better. All right. And then just select the tree template like it was its own object. And then we can create trees. Press play to see its scale. And there we go. We got something that's akin to a tree now. Cool. Now we'll just place some trees in this area. I think I have like the hidden collectible behind like some trees right here. Like it's a little bit more dense right here with trees. And we'll change their size and scale a little bit. So it's a little bit more varied. And we'll just keep doing that. So make use of your hierarchy to select the tree templates And if you get good with using your hierarchy, then you won't make the mistake of just like clicking the top of the tree and not dragging the bark with it or the trunk with it. All right, let's see what this kind of looks like. Yeah, man, just what a difference adding something to look at makes for our walk up to the gate, right? And hopefully we'll see like a little collectible right here, which will unlock this gate. And that'll easily teach the player that they're collectibles and that they unlock doors in our level. It's kind of like an easy softball for the player to knock out of the park to learn one of our most important game mechanics of the game. All right, so we're kind of getting there. There's our original pathway that we made right here. See all the trees that I kind of suggested. Next, we're going to kind of come in and create like this. This is going to kind of be level with our pathway, like this little market area right here. So I'm going to go to my plane. Control D will duplicate. I don't know if I've said that yet. And I'm just going to create just a pretty big area. I don't know exactly how big I'm going to want it yet, but there it is. And I think I'm going to go ahead and kind of signify maybe the cliff drop off. So I'll press E for rotate, W to go back to move. And it's not going to be the most sophisticated looking stuff, but it's going to at least start giving me an idea of the scope of this level. And don't always start over and over from the same spot. You can move your first person character controller so you can test more efficiently. All right. So this is the space that I've created. Not bad. But I don't really get a sense of scale for it. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and move my character into this area. I'm going to go ahead and create a like a house, so I can get a house suggested because houses are going to be a pretty big deal. We're going to go ahead and just scale up this cube, make it a little bit long, and I'm going to try to get a feel for the perspective of this gray box. Again, it's all about going in and testing this stuff. So it's a pretty small house. So maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. By the way, Control P will go in and out of play mode. I prefer using Control P instead of clicking the arrow up here. So we're going to make it a little bit bigger. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. You know, these are going to be simple little villager houses. Maybe make it a little bit wider. And I'm going to duplicate this cube and come up here and then, you know, fake like I'm doing a little roof for it, just so I can get the feeling of a house going on. You don't have to get as detailed as this, and you'll notice I'm not really giving it much thought and care. So, you know, that's about as good as I want to make my block out house right now. And same thing as I did for the trees, I'll go back to my template group. I'll duplicate it, but we notice now that I'm making objects away from the center of the grid, that my template group is all the way over here. So let's bring my empty template group and try to position it under the house as best we can. So now when we parent all of my cubes to template group, my template group pivot is where all of the cubes are located. That's driving me crazy a little bit. So I'm going to do this. There we go. And we're going to call this house template. And this will correspond to the little houses I drew right here. All right, so let's start laying them out, and it's just going to be a lot of trial and error at first to get the right kind of scale and space. But that's why we're using these, you know, crappy little primitives right here. So let's kind of just put them in a row. This is the only place where there's enough kind of open space to nicely place out houses. So you walk over here. All right, that's too far away. So just grab all of my houses right here, and I want to put them closer. So it's like almost as soon as you walk in, these houses, these are kind of like shop houses inside of like a fantasy place. Yeah, there we go. That's enough space to kind of feel open and free. Maybe I'll pull them a little bit closer though. All right, and my vision for this is also that the side right here is kind of like a cliff side because the mountain curls and loops up to this plateau. So I'm going to suggest that mountainside face real quick. We'll duplicate this plane right here, and I'll kind of do something like this. And it's going to be kind of right next to those houses. Like there'll be a back alley, but that's about it. And then I think what it does is kind of curves like this into the reflection pool area. Again, I'm not even worried about how blocky this is, but this is too tall. I don't think it should be that tall. I think it should be about maybe that tall. Okay, there we go. Just use as many planes as you need to kind of suggest the shapes that you want to do. I need to refer back here. Okay, it goes a little bit more long, I guess. So let's do something like this. And I'm not the slightest bit worried about all these planes intersecting because the player will never see that, basically. So I'm kind of, my goal is to kind of angle this down. And you'll notice that we only see like a little bit or one side of the polygons after a certain while. So we'll just start angling these down to suggest kind of the nice. And this might be too severe or not severe enough of an incline for the player to feel like it's normal. All right, so let's get a feel for this. So there's the buildings, and then you'll walk over here, and this is where the watering hole will be. Nice. I think I want to make this a little bit thinner and bring it up because I think it kind of should wrap around just a little bit more. I'll make one more. Control D is so nice. Again, I'm not worried about intersections. I'm just quickly trying to put together what this kind of looks like. I think it kind of wraps up in itself too. So we got something like this going on maybe. And then I might as well go ahead and try to make the land going up that follows this mountainous terrain. This could be time consuming. So I'm going to go ahead and build this land ramp out. Pause it. So I came up with something like this to start out. This is my first attempt. And I'm going to bring my first person controller kind of close to see how this feels to walk up. It's not too bad. A lot of this stuff will be approximated. I'm liking the way this is looking. Oh, this is beautiful. Could you just imagine an ocean out there now? You can see the whole town from up here. It's going to be beautiful. And then up here, we'll kind of finally get to the top, and the cathedral will be down that a ways. A lot of this is just give and take, tweaking. And a lot of it will be subject to change. It's kind of a moving target at times because you just you'll ultimately iterate to the point where it's going to be best. You're going to create the best experience for your player. So if this ends up being too Thanks, man. Okay, that was annoying. Get great content, my guy. Who is this man? I know it's good. That was not a paid actor. That was random, totally unscripted. So we're getting the feel here, very crude, like ground going on. I don't even care. Um, so I'm getting to the point where I want to level this off, but I don't want to eye what's level or not. So I can just go to my rotation and just 180 that out. Just use math, And this is going to kind of be the path to the actual cathedral. And then I'll do something like this to suggest the mountainside still going up. Maybe I'll make this brown, I don't know. Let's try to keep it. I want to keep it somewhat gray, Uh, but yeah, the mountain kind of just is a mountain. And it's just like they half found a nice plateau, half dug it out, uh, excavated it over countless eons, made something out of it. And it's just so beautiful that you got to worship a cheese god here. That's what I call true beauty. And then if I refer back here, it kind of curves around, so it's like the ocean. It kind of juts out right there. The land a little juts out. So I want to make this too tall or too oppressive. Maybe the mountain kind of starts again, like right here. So we'll do something crazy looking like this to start out with. It's not the worst. Let's get a feel for that. Oh man, it's almost looking like something now. You can really get an idea for the level, and think of all these houses you'll be walking by. My dread is that this part will be boring to walk up. Like I'm already starting to get a little bored right here. But maybe just the view of will get better and better, and people won't mind it as much. So this is definitely too long of a walk up, and so that's a mountain. So where did it just get really boring? Like right here. I think that's just a product of the time. So what I might do is try to create like some rugged terrain up here and do like a really cool layout of ladders and stairs and platforms that people have built into this mountain. Still kind of peasanty. Um, Let me go down a little bit more. Trying to get them to connect as seamlessly as possible, but I'm not worried about it too much. And to be honest, this kind of needs to come in a little bit more. I think that was too wide. Let's see what that looks like. So feel free to kind of just skip ahead. I'm just tinkering and get a feel for my experience of making this stuff, but that looks a little bit better. I'm going to tentatively go with kind of this layout. And then what I need to do now is populate this with some houses. So I think I was doing something like this. So we could have maybe like some rugged terrain, then a nice little path up this way. And then I just had like this idea of a bunch of houses just pocketed. I got to get that good view into the earth. Try to keep them level. And the terrain, you'll compensate with the terrain, no doubt, whenever we start sculpting out our terrain. And yeah, so obviously they want to build some guardrails there, and then have some houses over here that are kind of built into it. I really would like maybe to have like a crazy like 2-story thing going on right there. Who knows? No, I want to do houses, please, and do something like this. So they're kind of peeking all out, at every which way. And be sure to select the group when you want to rotate, because if I just selected this roof right here, no bueno. You could make this house template a prefab in its own right. To do that, we'll just drag down house template from our hierarchy to our prototype folder. And now what that does is it makes it a prefab. So one of the benefits is that it does kind of make it a its own thing. So I probably should have done that from the very beginning. So hopefully you're kind of watching and just getting an idea of what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to repopulate this with the prefab that I made already. And then I'll just go back in and delete all the non-prefab houses out. It'll just make it a lot easier of a process. So I just use a kind of a advanced technique called snapping. So I've duplicated this house and I'm going to line it up with that one. So I'll hold down the V key without a left click, click this corner, then left click with my V key, and then just snap it to any other vertex in my level. That didn't work as planned. There we go. And you see it kind of makes it getting things snapped into place a little bit easier. Okay, let's try to do it again here. Ooh, that house has been renovated. I'm going to go ahead and pause and do that. So I went in and did that same thing for the trees. So anything that's not a blue template, I'm just going to go ahead and delete. And all that's left are these prefabs I have. Again, really nice to use because if you just select maybe the roof, instead of just rotating the roof, you'll rotate the whole house now because it's all prefabbed up and nice and together. I'm going to keep making these houses or placing these houses as best I can. There we go. And then what do I have going on here? All right, then we get like to this, to like maybe like this little gate area. So I'm going to grab these again and I'll just, whoop, something like that. Maybe make it a little bit longer. Because this is one of the gates that bars your entrance to the cathedral. So you gotta hopefully you picked up your wishing pool deal right there. And then here comes the fun one. I'm gonna duplicate this cube and drag it on out. And I'm gonna build my cathedral now. So it'll be pretty easy to build this. It'll be kind of this tall, nice and majestic. And then just a simple little crossy section right there. And then all cathedrals are in the shape of a cross. I don't know if you guys knew that. All right. So we got something like that going on. I think I'm going to maybe angle this out some more. And let's increase this. Because there's like a little grotto back here. And let me finish building like this up, I guess. I guess it's more like this. Let me finish and pause. And this is kind of what I came up with for the layout going on here. Probably a little bit subject to change, but I'm going to go ahead and try to do the walk up here. One final little walk, maybe from in front of the gate right here. So let's press play. Hopefully this won't take too long. So, ocean is nice right there. We see that, we're looking up at a mountain. We can see there's something up there. Maybe we can see the cathedral from here. Yeah, you can. That's going to be beautiful. All right, here's our marketplace. This is where our reflection pool area would be. Let's grab that collectible, and then we'll start our journey, our pilgrimage up here, and we'll do some interesting navigation, some interesting things to look at, and some geometry and beautiful looking ocean. And then the more you get here, just the kind of cooler it is. I'm just a little worried that this area might be too long to go through. But you know what? I'm going to have fun making it. So hopefully the player's experience is well worth the time here. So let's jump up there. I think all those houses would look cool until we get to the garden gates. So we come in here and then we kind of see like a nice little formal shrubbery thing going on. The cathedral's right in front of us. It's a little bit off kilter right now. The mountain keeps going up to our left. Okay, we can't get around that side. There's nothing to see there. But we do have a nice creepy old graveyard to explore, overlooking the city, which you'll get a key that you'll need for inside the cathedral. All right, guys. That'll conclude the video. So something like this, a basic block out. Oh, before we stop though, let me show you how we'll build this out so that you can turn this in and let me play around in your level. All right. So you're going to make sure all of your changes are nice and made. And we can save our scene by going to File, Save As. I'm going to save this scene inside of my prototype folder. I'm going to call this Outdoor Gray Box. All right, perfect. Now what we'll do is we'll go to File. Now that we're in my outside build out right here, we'll go to File, Build Settings. We'll add Open Scenes. We get a prototype Outdoor Gray Box. I'll go to Build. It's going to ask me where I want to build it. So this is important. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to right click and create a new folder. I'm going to call this Outdoor Build. Unity will not make a folder for you when they do a build, so you got to make your own empty ones first. Otherwise, everything it spits out is just going to get put who knows where. I'll select the folder. Hopefully that's all Unity needed to run. We're building it out, building the player. Just give it a few clicks. And then it gives us a folder with a bunch of weird looking things in it. I will say, do not mess or move any of these folders or files. That's not what you want to do. What you want to do is just desktop. Here's my outdoor build. Here's my executable. I'll click it. And then this is what I am going to play whenever I see your asset. Well, this ain't bad. So I hope this inspires you to think about elevation and interesting design and some nice vistas to look at, and just an overall feel for the scale of your level. I might have bitten off a little more than I can chew. So we don't have an exit function inside of this game here, so we'll press Alt F4 and it'll close us out of that. And what you're going to do is you're going to include your paper map and your outdoor build, and then also your indoor build. I figured since I showed you guys how to block out the outdoor, you could do the same for the indoor. So you'll have a secondary indoor build. You're going to create a new folder here, and you're going to call this Rotor Patrick. How do I like to do this stuff? SGD 1112, chapter, what is this, 10? Something like that. And you're going to place both of your builds in your paper map, and you're going to right click it, send it to compressed folder. It's doing its compression dance. And then this guy right here will be what I'm looking for. Outdoor build folder, indoor build folder, and paper map. All right, guys, just drop that zip folder into the assignment repository in Google Drive. Thank you.